Maya had been working at the marketing agency for exactly 2 years and 3 months. She knew because she counted the days sometimes when work felt too heavy. Her desk sat in the corner near the big window, the spot nobody else wanted because the afternoon sun made it too bright. But Maya liked it there. She could see the street below and watch people living their normal lives while she designed logos and edited photos for clients she would never meet. Friday evening arrived different than usual. The entire office had been transformed for a celebration party. The company had just landed the biggest client in 5 years, and the boss decided everyone deserved to relax. Someone had hung string lights across the ceiling. The fluorescent office lights were turned off, replaced by soft-colored bulbs that made everything feel less like work and more like somewhere people actually wanted to be. Music played from a speaker someone brought from home, not too loud but enough to fill the awkward silence that usually hung over the office. Maya stood near the refreshment table, holding a plastic cup of juice. She watched her co-workers laughing and dancing, forming little groups the way people do at parties. She recognized everyone but felt like she knew nobody. 2 years in the same building, and she could barely remember half their names. It wasn't their fault. After what happened with her ex-boyfriend, Maya had built walls around herself. She came to work, did her job better than most, and went home. No office friendships, no after-work drinks, no getting close to anyone who might hurt her later. She reached for a napkin from the table, focused on not spilling her drink. Someone behind her moved suddenly, bumping into her shoulder. The cup tilted in her hand, juice sloshing toward the edge. Maya stumbled forward, her body losing balance. Her mind flashed to the embarrassment of falling in front of everyone, of being the awkward girl who couldn't even stand properly at a party. Then a hand caught her waist. Firm fingers wrapped around her side, steadying her before she could fall. The touch sent electricity through her entire body. Maya felt her breath catch in her throat. Time seemed to move slower, like someone had pressed pause on the whole world. The hand was warm through the thin fabric of her blue dress. She hadn't worn a dress to work in months, maybe years. But tonight, she wanted to feel different. Now someone's hand rested on that exact spot, and her heart started beating so hard she thought everyone could hear it. She turned her head slowly. The man standing behind her was Daniel, the new creative director. He had joined the company 3 months ago, taking over the design department. Maya had sent him probably 100 emails about projects, but they had never really talked face to face. He always seemed too busy, too important, too surrounded by other people. Their eyes met for the first time, really met. Not the quick glance in the hallway or the polite nod during meetings. This was different. His eyes were brown, warm like coffee, and they looked surprised. His hand was still on her waist. Neither of them moved. The noise of the party faded into nothing. The music, the laughter, the conversations, all became background static. All Maya could focus on was the feeling of his hand and the way he was looking at her. Daniel pulled his hand away quickly, like he suddenly realized what he was doing. His face flushed red. Maya could see him struggling to find words. He apologized 3 times in a row, talking fast, explaining that he just didn't want her to fall. His nervousness surprised her. At work, he always seemed so confident, so sure of himself. Now he looked like a teenager who had just talked to his crush for the first time. Maya found herself smiling, actually smiling, something she rarely did at work. She told him it was okay, that she was grateful he caught her. Her voice came out softer than she intended. They stood there for a moment that felt longer than it was, neither knowing what to say next. Daniel introduced himself properly, even though they both knew who the other was. He extended his hand for a handshake, formal and polite. When Maya took it, his hand was warm and slightly rough, not the soft hands of someone who only typed on keyboards. These were hands that built things, created things. The handshake lasted a second too long before they both let go. They started talking, and Maya couldn't believe how easy it felt. Daniel admitted something that shocked her. He said he had been wanting to talk to her for weeks but never knew how to start. He had noticed her eating lunch alone every day, always with her sketchbook, always drawing something. He said he found it interesting that most people spent lunch scrolling through their phones, but she was different. She created things, even during her break. Maya felt her walls starting to crack. Nobody at work had ever noticed her, really noticed her. She told him about her sketches, how she liked to draw buildings and streets, capturing the city in pencil and ink. Daniel's face lit up. He loved architecture too, always took photos of interesting buildings wherever he traveled. They talked about their favorite structures in the city, debated whether modern designs were better than classic ones, laughed about the ugly new office building 2 blocks away that looked like a stack of boxes. The party continued around them, but they barely noticed. Other co-workers danced and chatted, but Maya and Daniel stood in their own little world near the refreshment table. An hour passed, like minutes. Maya learned that Daniel had moved to the city 6 months ago, that he loved old movies, that he made terrible jokes and laughed at them himself. She found herself laughing too, real, genuine laughter that felt foreign in her throat. When the party finally ended and people started leaving, Daniel offered to walk Maya to her car. The parking garage was mostly empty now, their footsteps echoing off the concrete walls. Under the harsh fluorescent lights, everything felt more real, less like a dream. They reached her car, and Maya fumbled with her keys, suddenly nervous again. Daniel asked if he could have her number. Not for work, he clarified quickly, but to maybe talk more, maybe get coffee sometime if she wanted. His nervousness returned, and Maya found it sweet. She gave him her number, typing it into his phone with shaking fingers. When she drove away, she could see him in her rearview mirror, standing under the parking garage lights, watching her leave with a smile on his face. Maya drove home with butterflies in her stomach, something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Her apartment felt different when she walked in, like the air itself had changed. She kept touching her waist where his hand had been, remembering that moment when everything shifted. She didn't sleep much that night. Just replayed every word of their conversation, every smile, every look. Maybe, just maybe, she thought, it was okay to let someone in again. The weekend felt longer than usual. Maya kept checking her phone, waiting for Daniel to text first, because she didn't want to seem too eager. Saturday morning, a message finally came through. Just a simple good morning and a question about her weekend plans. They started texting back and forth, the conversation flowing as naturally as it had at the party. Daniel told her about his daughter. Her name was Sophie, and she was 7 years old. She lived with his ex-wife in another state, about 4 hours away by car. Daniel's voice changed when he talked about Sophie, even through text messages. Maya could feel the love and the pain mixed together. He saw his daughter during holidays and some weekends when he could make the drive. Every separation hurt like the first one. He explained his divorce without making excuses. His ex-wife, Rachel, wanted a husband who worked less and brought home more money. She wanted vacations and a bigger house, and a life that looked perfect from the outside. Daniel worked long hours at his old job, trying to give her everything she asked for, but it was never enough. They fought constantly. Small disagreements turned into screaming matches. The love they once had died slowly, piece by piece, until nothing remained but resentment and exhaustion. The divorce was finalized a year ago. Daniel decided to move to a new city, start fresh somewhere. His failures didn't follow him around every corner, but leaving Sophie behind tore him apart. He called her every night before bed, listened to her talk about school and friends and the things 7-year-olds find important. He saved every drawing she made him, kept them in a folder on his desk at work. Maya found herself opening up too, something she swore she would never do again. She told Daniel about her ex-boyfriend, about the betrayal that shattered her trust in people. They had been together for 2 years. She thought they were building a future together. Then she discovered he had been seeing her best friend behind her back for months. The two people she trusted most in the world had destroyed her together. The breakup left her hollow. She stopped going out, stopped trying to meet new people, stopped believing that relationships could be anything other than painful. Work became her escape. The only place where she had control, where people couldn't hurt her if she just kept them at a distance. Daniel's response came quickly. He said that anyone who hurt her was a complete fool, that she deserved better than lies and betrayal. His words felt genuine, not like empty comfort. Maya read his message 3 times, feeling something warm spread through her chest. Monday morning at work felt strange. Maya walked into the office and immediately looked for Daniel. Their eyes met across the room, and they shared a smile that felt like a secret. Throughout the day, Maya caught herself thinking about him instead of focusing on work. During lunch, Daniel appeared at her usual spot in the break room. He asked if she wanted to grab coffee after work. Maya agreed before her brain could talk her out of it. The coffee shop was small and crowded, filled with students studying and people having quiet conversations. They found a corner table by the window. Daniel ordered for both of them after asking what she liked. He remembered details from their text conversations. Knew she preferred tea over coffee, that she liked honey instead of sugar. They talked for 2 hours. Daniel shared more about his failed marriage, about the guilt he carried for not being enough, for choosing a career path that took too much time, for not seeing the problems until it was too late. He worried constantly that Sophie would grow up thinking her father abandoned her, even though he called every day and visited whenever possible. Maya listened without judging. She understood guilt, carried plenty of her own. She told him how the betrayal made her question everything about herself. Was she not pretty enough? Not interesting enough? Not worth staying faithful to? She threw herself into work because designing logos couldn't break her heart. Photoshop wouldn't lie to her face. Daniel reached across the table and took her hand. His touch was gentle, careful. He looked directly into her eyes and said that her ex-boyfriend was an idiot. That betraying someone like her wasn't just wrong, it was stupid, that she was creative and thoughtful and deserved someone who saw that. Maya felt tears forming but refused to let them fall. She squeezed his hand instead, grateful for words she didn't know she needed to hear. Days turned into weeks. Coffee dates became dinner dates. Daniel took her to small restaurants he had discovered while exploring the city. They walked through parks on weekends, talked about everything and nothing, learned each other's habits and quirks. Daniel made her laugh with terrible puns and funny stories about office disasters. He remembered the small things, like how she always ordered water with extra lemon, how she tucked her hair behind her ear when she was nervous. 3 weeks into whatever this was becoming, Daniel invited Maya to his apartment for dinner. He promised to cook, though he warned her his skills were limited. Maya felt nervous driving to his place, checking her appearance in the mirror 5 times before leaving her car. His apartment was small but cozy. Books lined the shelves. Photos of Sophie covered the refrigerator. Daniel cooked pasta with vegetables. Nothing fancy but made with care. They ate at his small kitchen table, talking and laughing like they had known each other for years instead of weeks. After dinner, they moved to the couch. The conversation shifted, became deeper, more personal. Daniel admitted he hadn't felt this way about anyone since before his marriage started falling apart. That meeting, Maya felt like finding something he thought he had lost forever. The ability to connect, to feel hope about another person. Maya's breath caught in her throat. She felt the same terrifying, wonderful thing. But admitting it out loud meant being vulnerable again, meant giving someone the power to hurt her. Daniel moved closer on the couch. He reached up slowly and tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, his fingers gentle against her skin. Maya's heart raced. He leaned in, giving her time to pull away if she wanted. When his lips touched hers, the kiss was soft, questioning, asking permission with every movement. Maya melted into it, her walls crumbling. For a moment, everything felt perfect. Then panic rose in her chest like floodwater. Memories of her ex-boyfriend flashed through her mind. The lies, the betrayal, the pain. What if Daniel hurt her too? What if she wasn't enough for him, either? She pulled away suddenly, breaking the kiss. Her hands shook. She apologized, words tumbling out fast and confused. Daniel didn't look angry or frustrated. He just held her, pulled her close, and let her rest her head on his chest. His heartbeat was steady and calm under her ear. He whispered that they could go as slow as she needed, that there was no rush, no pressure, that he would wait as long as it took for her to feel safe. Maya closed her eyes and listened to his heartbeat, feeling grateful and terrified in equal measure. 2 months passed like a dream Maya was afraid to wake up from. Her relationship with Daniel grew deeper with each passing day. She had never been happier, and that scared her sometimes. Happiness felt fragile, like something that could shatter if she held it too tight or not tight enough. Everything about Daniel felt different from her past relationship. He actually listened when she talked, remembered the details of her stories, asked follow-up questions days later about things she mentioned in passing. When Maya had a rough day at work, he showed up at her apartment with her favorite food without being asked. He noticed when she was quiet and gave her space when she needed it, but stayed close enough that she knew he was there. At the office, they kept their relationship quiet. They had agreed it was better that way, at least for now. But people started noticing anyway. Coworkers commented that Maya smiled more, that she actually joined conversations during lunch instead of eating alone. Someone mentioned seeing them arrive at work together one morning. The rumors started spreading in whispers. Then spring break came, and Sophie was coming to visit Daniel for a whole week. Daniel was nervous in a way Maya had never seen before. He wanted his daughter to meet Maya. Wanted the two most important people in his life to know each other. But he worried about everything. What if Sophie didn't like Maya? What if Maya didn't connect with his daughter? What if this was too much, too soon? Maya was equally nervous for different reasons. She had never dated someone with a child before. Kids were complicated. They came with schedules and responsibilities, and a whole other person's feelings to consider. What if she said the wrong thing? What if Sophie hated her, and Daniel had to choose between them? They planned to meet at the aquarium on Saturday morning. Maya barely slept the night before, changing her outfit 4 times, practicing what to say to a 7-year-old. When she arrived at the entrance, Daniel was already there with Sophie holding his hand. The little girl had dark, curly hair, like her father, and big, curious eyes. She hid behind Daniel's leg when she saw Maya, peeking out shyly. Maya knelt down to Sophie's level, making herself less intimidating. She smiled and asked Sophie what her favorite sea animal was. Sophie hesitated, looking up at her dad for permission. Daniel encouraged her gently. Sophie's face lit up as she started talking about dolphins, about how smart they were, about a documentary she watched where dolphins saved a swimmer from a shark. They walked through the aquarium together, Sophie gradually warming up to Maya. Daniel watched them interact with a mixture of hope and anxiety on his face. Maya asked Sophie questions about school, about her friends, about the book she was reading. She didn't talk down to the little girl but treated her like a real person whose opinions mattered. In front of the jellyfish tank, Sophie reached out and took Maya's hand without being prompted. Maya's heart swelled. Such a small gesture, but it meant everything. They stood together watching the jellyfish float like ghosts in the blue water. And Maya felt like maybe she could do this, could be part of this family dynamic. Daniel bought them ice cream afterward. Sophie got chocolate and managed to get it all over her face. Maya helped her clean up, wiping her chin with a napkin, while Sophie giggled. When Daniel went to throw away their trash, Sophie looked at Maya seriously and asked the question that had probably been on her mind all day. Was Maya her daddy's girlfriend? Maya hesitated. They hadn't put labels on what they were, hadn't had that official conversation. But looking at Sophie's innocent, curious face, Maya decided honesty was best. She said yes, she was. Sophie considered this carefully, her little face scrunched up in thought. Then she declared that Maya was pretty and nice, so it was okay with her. Maya had to fight back tears at the simple acceptance. The rest of the day went perfectly. They visited the park, played on the swings, got dinner at a family restaurant, where Sophie colored on the paper menu. By the time Maya said goodbye, Sophie hugged her without being asked. Daniel walked Maya to her car while Sophie waited on the sidewalk, and he looked happier than Maya had ever seen him. But that evening changed everything. After Sophie went to bed, Daniel's phone rang. Maya was still there, helping clean up from dinner. She heard Rachel's voice through the phone even though she was in the other room. The anger in that voice was impossible to miss. Rachel was furious that Daniel had introduced Sophie to someone new without discussing it with her first. She accused him of being careless, of putting his dating life before their daughter's well-being, of not respecting her as Sophie's mother. Her words were sharp and cutting, designed to hurt. Daniel defended himself calmly, his voice steady, but Maya could see the tension in his shoulders. He explained that Maya was important to him, that he wanted Sophie to know her, that he wouldn't hide parts of his life from his daughter. Rachel wasn't listening. She threatened to revisit their custody arrangement, to limit his time with Sophie, to make things difficult. When Daniel hung up, he looked exhausted. He apologized to Maya, explaining that Rachel had been like this since the divorce. She still called late at night sometimes, still tried to control his decisions, still hadn't fully accepted that their marriage was over. Some part of Rachel seemed to want Daniel to stay miserable, to not move on, to remain stuck in the past with her. Maya told him it was fine, but doubt crept into her mind like cold water. Was she ready for this? For an ex-wife who clearly wasn't over things? For the complicated mess of custody and phone calls, and someone else having a say in their relationship? She cared about Daniel so much, maybe even loved him, but this was bigger than anything she had dealt with before. The next week was tense. Rachel kept calling, kept making demands about Sophie's schedule. She suddenly wanted to change the visitation arrangement, wanted Sophie to visit less often. She questioned every decision Daniel made, every plan he had. The phone calls came at dinner time, during their dates, in the middle of the night. Each time, Maya watched Daniel grow more stressed and distant. One evening, after another difficult call with Rachel, Daniel seemed far away even though he was sitting right next to Maya on the couch. She asked what was wrong. He admitted he was worried about everything. Worried Rachel would make custody harder. Worried about how the drama affected Sophie. Worried that Maya would decide this was too much and leave. That last part hit Maya hard. She went home that night and couldn't sleep. She lay in bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about everything. She cared about Daniel, deeply. But was love supposed to be this complicated? Or was she setting herself up for another kind of heartbreak? Different from the last, but just as painful. Her mind spun with questions that had no easy answers. What if Rachel never stopped interfering? What if the situation got worse instead of better? What if she fell completely in love with Daniel and Sophie, and then everything fell apart? The fear felt overwhelming in the darkness of her bedroom, and Maya wasn't sure if she was strong enough to face it. The following weeks tested everything Maya thought she knew about love and relationships. Rachel continued her campaign of interference, calling at all hours, changing plans without warning, making Daniel choose between keeping peace with his ex-wife and building a life with Maya. Every decision became a battle. Every phone call, a potential crisis. Sophie's next scheduled visit got canceled at the last minute. Rachel suddenly planned a family event, her family's event, and expected Daniel to understand why Sophie couldn't come see him that weekend. Daniel was devastated. He had planned a whole weekend with activities Sophie would love. He had to explain to his daughter over the phone why they couldn't see each other, and Maya heard his voice break as he tried to stay positive for Sophie's sake. Maya watched Daniel struggle with everything. He was torn between his daughter and his relationship, between standing up to Rachel and avoiding conflict that might hurt Sophie. The happy, confident man she fell for was retreating behind walls of worry and stress. He stopped sleeping well. Dark circles appeared under his eyes. He snapped at co-workers over small things, then apologized immediately after. Their relationship started feeling the strain. Date nights got interrupted by Rachel's phone calls. Plans changed without notice when Rachel manufactured some crisis that required Daniel's immediate attention. Maya tried to be supportive, tried to understand, but she was starting to feel invisible. Like she was competing with a ghost for Daniel's attention, and losing. At work, keeping their relationship secret became impossible. A co-worker saw them holding hands in the parking lot. Someone else noticed they always left at the same time. The rumors spread faster, and their boss called Daniel into his office for a conversation about workplace relationships and potential conflicts of interest. The company had policies about people in different positions dating. Daniel was management, Maya wasn't. It could become a problem. The pressure built from every direction until Maya felt like she was suffocating. Then her ex-boyfriend sent her a message out of nowhere on social media. He was getting married and wanted to apologize for how things ended years ago. He said he was trying to clear his conscience, to make amends for past mistakes before starting his new life. The message was long and detailed, explaining how he knew what he did was wrong, how he regretted hurting her. Maya stared at the message for an hour, feeling old wounds reopening. She thought she had moved past that betrayal, thought she had healed. But seeing his name on her screen brought everything back. The pain, the humiliation, the feeling of not being enough. She made a mistake mentioning it to Daniel that evening. They were having dinner at Daniel's apartment, and the mood was already tense. Another call from Rachel had ruined their plans earlier. Daniel was quiet and distant, picking at his food without eating much. Maya told him about the message from her ex, thinking maybe sharing her own problems would help. Would remind them both that they were a team facing things together. Daniel reacted in a way she didn't expect. His face darkened, and he asked questions that felt like accusations. Did she still have feelings for her ex? Was she having second thoughts about their relationship? Why did her ex feel comfortable reaching out to her? Was she responding to his messages? Maya felt hurt and angry. After everything they had shared, after all her vulnerability, Daniel was questioning her commitment. She raised her voice, something she rarely did. She told him he was being unfair, that she had done nothing wrong, that she chose him every day despite how difficult everything had become. Daniel raised his voice back. He said he was tired of everyone questioning his decisions, of feeling like he couldn't do anything right. With Rachel, with work, and now feeling like he was failing Maya too. His stress and insecurity poured out in words that cut deep. He said maybe they were both kidding themselves, trying to force something that was too complicated to work. The words hung in the air between them like poison. Maya felt tears streaming down her face. Daniel looked shocked by his own words, but he didn't take them back. Maya grabbed her bag and left without another word. She cried the whole drive home. In her apartment, she collapsed on the couch and let herself break down completely. Her phone stayed silent. No call from Daniel, no text, nothing. The silence hurt more than the fight. Days passed without contact. At work, they avoided each other completely. Maya took the long way to the break room to avoid passing Daniel's office. When they ended up in the same meeting, they sat on opposite sides of the room and didn't make eye contact. The tension was obvious to everyone, confirming all the rumors about their relationship. Maya's friends told her to move on, that relationships shouldn't be this difficult this early. If it was this hard now, they said, imagine how impossible it would be years down the line. Logic told her they were right. But her heart refused to listen to logic. She missed him desperately. Missed his laugh, his terrible jokes, the way he looked at her like she was the only person in the world. She missed Sophie's innocent questions and sticky hands. She missed feeling like part of something bigger than herself. At night, she lay in bed remembering the moment at the party when he caught her waist. When everything began. When life felt full of possibility instead of pain. A week passed. Then another. Maya went through the motions at work, but felt hollow inside. She had built walls after her ex-boyfriend's betrayal, and Daniel had somehow gotten through them. Now those walls were broken, and she didn't know how to rebuild them, or if she even wanted to. Finally, on a Sunday afternoon, Maya sent Daniel a text. Just 4 words, asking if they could meet. She couldn't let this end, without at least trying, without fighting for what they had. Life was scary and messy and complicated, but losing Daniel felt scarier than facing all of it. Daniel's response came within minutes. He agreed to meet at the park. Their park, the one where they had their first real date. Maya spent the morning preparing herself for anything. For reconciliation, or goodbye. For hope, or heartbreak. She knew this conversation would determine everything, would decide if their story ended here or continued forward into unknown territory. Sunday afternoon arrived with clear blue skies and warm sunshine that felt wrong for the heaviness in Maya's chest. The park was filled with people living normal lives. Families spread blankets for picnics. Couples walked hand in hand. Kids chased each other around the playground, their laughter carrying on the breeze. Everyone seemed so carefree while Maya felt like her entire world balanced on the edge of a cliff. She arrived early and sat on their bench, the one under the old oak tree where they had sat dozens of times before. The tree's branches created shade patterns on the ground, moving gently with the wind. Maya watched those patterns and tried to calm her racing heart. Daniel appeared 10 minutes later, walking slowly across the grass. He looked tired, like he hadn't been sleeping. His hair was messier than usual. His clothes wrinkled. When their eyes met, Maya saw the same pain she felt reflected back at her. They sat on opposite ends of the bench, a careful distance between them. Maya spoke first because she knew if she waited she might lose her courage. She told him that love wasn't what she thought it would be when she was younger. She used to believe love was supposed to be easy and perfect like in movies, where problems got solved in 2 hours and everyone lived happily ever after. But real love was messy and complicated, and sometimes it hurt in ways she never expected. She admitted she was scared. Scared of Rachel's interference, and how it would never really end because Sophie connected them forever. Scared of not being enough for a man who already had a daughter, who had responsibilities and complications she never asked for. Scared of getting hurt again like her ex-boyfriend hurt her. Scared of breaking and not being able to put herself back together this time. But Maya was more scared of losing Daniel without fighting for what they had. Despite everything hard and complicated, what they shared felt more real than anything she had experienced. When she was with him, she felt like herself. Like the person she was supposed to be before betrayal taught her to hide. She loved him, and that was terrifying but also worth the risk. Daniel listened without interrupting, his eyes never leaving her face. When she finished, he took a deep breath that seemed to come from somewhere deep inside. He apologized for how he reacted about her ex's message, for letting stress and insecurity turn him into someone he didn't recognize. He explained that his divorce left him feeling like a failure at love, like he had proven he wasn't good enough to make a relationship work. Meeting Maya was the first time in years he felt hope again. Hope that he could be happy, that someone could see past his complications and choose him anyway. But with that hope came overwhelming fear that he would mess everything up again. Fear that his complicated life with Rachel and custody battles and work stress would drive Maya away. Fear that he would have to choose between his daughter and his own happiness. He told her about a phone call with Sophie from a few days ago. She had asked when Maya was coming to visit again, said she missed her, wanted to show her a new drawing she made. That conversation made Daniel realize he had been so focused on protecting everyone from potential hurt that he was creating the exact pain he tried to prevent. They talked for hours as the sun moved across the sky and the shadows shifted under the oak tree. They discussed boundaries they needed to set. Daniel promised to be firmer with Rachel, to stop letting her drama consume their relationship. He would always co-parent respectfully, but his personal life was his own. Maya promised to communicate when she felt shut out instead of pulling away. She would work on trusting that Daniel choosing her was real and lasting. They acknowledged this wouldn't be easy. There would be more fights with Rachel, more stress, more moments of doubt. Love didn't fix problems or make complications disappear. But love meant choosing each other despite the chaos, despite the fear, despite everything that tried to pull them apart. Daniel moved closer on the bench, closing the distance between them. He reached for Maya's waist, the same gesture that started everything months ago at the office party. This time Maya leaned into him completely. No hesitation, no fear. She let herself feel safe in his arms. He whispered that he loved her, and she said it back. The words felt both terrifying and liberating, like jumping off a cliff and discovering you could fly. They made real plans sitting under that oak tree. They would tell work about their relationship officially, deal with whatever policies or consequences came. Daniel would set firmer boundaries with Rachel, making it clear his personal life wasn't up for negotiation. Maya would find a therapist to help process her past trauma, to learn how to trust again without constantly waiting for betrayal. When Sophie visited next month, they would do something special together. Daniel wanted Maya in his life permanently, and that meant Sophie needed to be comfortable and happy with her too. They would take things slow but with clear intention, building something solid instead of rushing forward blindly. Months passed after that conversation in the park. Life didn't suddenly become easy or perfect. Rachel still created drama sometimes, but Daniel held his boundaries. She realized he wasn't going to dance to her tune anymore, and gradually her interference lessened. Sophie visited more regularly and started calling Maya by name instead of Daddy's friend. The little girl even asked if Maya would come to her school play, a request that made Maya cry happy tears. Work adjusted to their relationship. Some co-workers gossiped, but most people stopped caring after a few weeks. Daniel's boss approved their relationship with the condition they maintain professionalism at the office. They followed that rule carefully, keeping work and personal life separate. They had more fights and more makeups. They learned each other's triggers and how to communicate through difficult moments instead of shutting down. Maya started therapy and slowly worked through the betrayal trauma that had controlled her for years. Daniel learned to share his stress instead of carrying it alone until it exploded. One evening, 6 months after their fight and reconciliation, they cooked dinner together in Daniel's kitchen. Maya had practically moved in, though she kept her apartment just in case. She was stirring sauce while Daniel chopped vegetables, and they moved around each other with the easy familiarity of people who knew each other's rhythms. Maya caught herself smiling, thinking about that single touch that changed everything. How something wild and unexpected at an office party grew into something solid and real. How the scariest risks sometimes led to the most beautiful places. Daniel noticed her expression and asked what she was thinking about. She told him she was thinking about wastes and wild things, and how grateful she was that someone bumped into her that night. How grateful she was that he caught her. Literally and figuratively. Daniel set down his knife and pulled her close, getting tomato juice on her shirt, but neither of them cared. They danced to no music in the kitchen. Dinner forgotten on the stove. Because this was what love actually looked like when you stripped away the fantasies. Not a perfect fairy tale, or an easy journey. Just two imperfect people choosing each other every single day, making it work despite everything that tried to pull them apart. Building something real from a moment of chaos. From a simple touch that felt like lightning. From the wild courage it took to risk everything for a chance at happiness.